So again, that was video from the Baptista case that was recorded previously, but it was not obviously video of the defendant testifying. Instead, it was one of the objections being made and all the responses the attorneys were making to that. But I'm really excited to share with you who I have on with us now to analyze, and we're going to return back to the trial of Nicholas Godejohn. Cathy Russon, our very own Law and Crime, is on with us. She is there covering this trial and can give us all of the information about the trial. So Cathy, tell us what they're doing at this moment, and we'll go from there.
Well, we're on the lunch hour, so when they return in about 30 minutes, the defense will call another witness.
So I love what you're able to tell us about your observations. So for instance, you shared with us that 2 of the female jurors were not looking at Gypsy while she testified. Did they ever look at her or watch her that you were able to see?
So there were 2 female jurors on the front row closest to Gypsy. After a little while, the second one did look at her. And so, but the interesting thing, I have no idea how to read into this or if there's anything to it at all, but the one that sits closest to Gypsy on the front row didn't look at her once. And I watched her a lot because it was easy to watch her because she was close to Gypsy. And at least I never saw her look at her. And she just kind of looked like this and then just kind of down, like away from her and down. So that, that was interesting. I don't know. It could be her personality. It could be she was uncomfortable because she was right there next to her. But it was interesting because Gypsy was on the stand for a while and she never looked at her.
So now there's been some chatter about whether or not Gypsy has been giving any looks at the defendant. So describe that for us. Did you observe any of those looks?
Okay. I've seen a lot on social media talking about this. One, Godejohn never looked at her. And people are saying he was staring her down. Never saw that. And the camera can't really even show the front of his face anyway. But I was at an angle that I could see him at an angle, and I never once saw him look at her. When he did look that way, it was when they had the messages on the screen. For her, she glanced awkwardly kind of in that direction a couple times. And then never again after that. So I didn't see any stare downs between the 2 of them.
It's so fascinating. And what has he been doing? Has he been doing anything, or has he just been sitting, kind of doing nothing?
Well, he looks down a lot. So when he's just kind of like this most of the time, or he's taking notes. And it's interesting because sometimes he just starts feverishly writing notes out of nowhere. And I try and connect that to what was just said. And this time it was when she talked about the 3 plans that she had. And we can talk about those.
Yes. Tell us about those 3 plans and everything you've observed. And then after that, I want your gut. I want to know how you're feeling about this trial because you were there actually watching it firsthand.
So Gypsy said she had 3 plans to get away from her mother. The first one was she had been online dating Godejohn since 2012, but the first time they met in person was March of 2015, and they had a plan to have him go to the same movie theater that her and her mother would be at, and they would act like they had just met each other there, and he would sit near them, and Gypsy was hoping her mother would easily accept him. And when it turned out absolutely that didn't work, her second plan was to get pregnant, and she thought if she got pregnant, then her mom would have to accept him. And her third plan was murder. And the interesting part of her testimony, out of all of it, we all kind of already knew the whole story because they both did interviews. But I guess I was just a little taken aback about how much she let him off the hook. It was her plan. She said, I talked him into it. It was my plan. The only part that he did was he decided how he wanted to kill her. But it was a lot of Gypsy saying that this was her idea, and if not for her, he would have never done this. Now, I found her very credible. I found that everything she testified to was the truth. I didn't see any deception in there at all. So I believed it.
Well, tell me, though, what you meant by letting her off the hook or letting him off the hook based on other interviews and things you've seen. What did you expect, Cathy, that may have been different in her testimony than what she provided?
I thought maybe she would say, and she did mention that she changed her mind once. I thought maybe we would hear something like, but then he talked me back into it. He really wanted me to get away from my mom. I thought there would just be a little bit more there. He's definitely not blameless. I just thought that was interesting. She didn't show any hatred. I don't know if maybe she still likes him. I don't know. I doubt that, though. And she was just very forthcoming. I think the jury finds her credible because pretty much everyone in the courtroom did.
You know, not only that, we've talked a little bit about she doesn't have anything to lose. She's already pledged. She's serving 10 years for murder in the second. And so she certainly doesn't have anything to lose by being truthful and honest. Let's talk about Godejohn. What's the scuttlebutt there at the courthouse about whether or not he is going to testify or people think he's going to testify or not?
We do not think he's going to testify. Nothing's been said. But the judge advised him of his rights yesterday, and that was it. I really don't think they'll put him on the stand. Okay. But I do think at this point he's guilty of first-degree murder according to the law.
And so what do you think the jury's going to find? Yeah, what's your gut about what the jury is? How is the jury reacting to all this testimony, and do you think they're going to convict him of first-degree murder?
Well, there isn't a lot of reaction from this jury, so there's no, except maybe looking around, and but there hasn't been like reaction. I can't say during parts of the trial they're very intense and paying attention. During other parts it's like they're kind of wandering. I don't know if some already have their minds made up. In that case, it might be good for him to take the stand because, I mean, like I said, legally he's guilty of first-degree murder, so I'm not sure he could hurt himself by taking the stand. But I don't know. I do know that after lunch, there's a defense expert coming up. I don't know his title exactly. I'm assuming he's some kind of psychologist, something like that. He was sitting next to me during Gypsy's testimony and taking a lot of notes. So he's coming on after lunch.
So did they not have the witnesses sequestered?
Experts usually have the right to be in there. When they have the battling experts, we see that in almost every trial, that the expert can hear whatever that key testimony is before he gets to testify.
All right. Thank you, Cathy. I know Law and Crime loves having you there, and I appreciate your attention to detail. We're going to take a really short break, and then we'll be right back to discuss more about this case.